The information that we're getting, Alex, you let us know how you're doing on a break, is that there are good members of law enforcement, local, county, state, and federal level that have come forward, either admitted their identity or wanted to be anonymous. And there's a consistent pattern of, okay, this is the information that makes sense. What the federal government and their, like you said, the cartoonish story simply can't hold its own. There is no factual foundation on it. So we go back and we say, okay, we're going to present the information that we know is factual. Reams of documentation. Every single thing that we're going to have on the film will have a bibliography, and there's going to be reference on all of that. So there's no question. And we're going to paint a completely different story. We need to get the truth out on this. People will have that as a foundation, just like a lot of your movies, to make a judgment call on what's going to happen in the future. They have to know.
Well, then you've got the FBI coming and brandishing guns at Hoppy Heidelberg, the head grand juror's house, and telling him, you're not going to call these witnesses, you're going to shut up. I mean, you have the motive. I mean, Bill Clinton on Air Force One a year after the attack, they said, why did you get reelected? Your approval rating was way down. It went way back up. He said, Oklahoma City got me reelected. Well, I mean, that's why Hitler firebombed his own Reichstag.
The Whitewater documents were housed in the building for the whole investigation.
He was going to go down like a lead balloon. It was unbelievable. May of that year, congressional hearings were going to take him down on the Whitewater investigation.
Let's fix this all with one shot. Blow that building, make sure there's kids inside. People love images of them, and get rid of them documents at the same time. We'll be right back. All right, we're going to go right back to our guest in studio, listening on the radio out there on the AM and FM dial, global shortwave, satellite, XM. You can also watch us live, streaming video at prisonplanet.tv. Chris-Emery, filmmaker, director, producer, living in Oklahoma City, known him for many years. And, of course, James Lane, also doing great work, both making a Oklahoma City film set to come out in the winter of this year. Okay, you were going over incredible information about Jolly and West and other tidbits, things that are documented on record but are so bizarre, it's where truth is stranger than fiction. Get into it.
We've got a researcher, Wendy Painting, that has been uncovering these documents, and she's actually getting through information that the FBI hadn't even seen. It was actual records for the defense. And we've got a hold of Jolly West's resume. And I always...
That's McVeigh's doctor from the time he gets arrested to his execution.
Yes. And I always suspected that there was some link with, mind control, psychological warfare. And sure enough, on the second page of his resume, we've got where he worked for the Tavistock Institute.
Which is the top British mind control operation. And then, of course, he was in the MK Ultra 77 hearings as the number 2 man in the world in the MK Ultra program under Ewing Cameron.
Right. And now this has Tavistock Institute has direct links back to when the Fabians absorbed the National Socialist science through Project Paperclip. So I mean, this guy was really the inheritor of that knowledge. And now he goes in to the location there in El Reno.
In fact, guys, do a document cam shot of this. I'll keep going.
And in El Reno, and what did the warden say there?
Well, the warden says he runs a clean operation. It was at the Federal Correctional Facility, a mile and a half from where Terry Ickey's body was found, by the way. And when he found out that there were hypodermic needles on McVeigh's tray, he says, that's it. I do not allow drugs. I don't allow paraphernalia, nothing in my prison. What's going on here? 2 weeks later, he was relieved. He was transferred to another facility.
And that's how the Japanese created their mind control assassin ninjas, was drugs and sex. But please continue.
Well, we see that they said that he was so drugged up, that McVeigh was so drugged up at that point that he would have admitted to assassinating Abraham Lincoln. Then Jolly West's protege took over after that, Dr. John Smith. Now, he is currently in psychiatric department at Guantanamo Bay. So again, these guys, there's a constant...
And they admit Guantanamo Bay has a CIA base on it where they do mind control study. Yeah. That's MSNBC.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, this is amazing.
And there's transcripts that show where Jolly West is talking about working with Jack Ruby. I mean, he goes back that far. And the type of situation that Jack Ruby was going through and the mental stress that he dealt with, and comparing that with McVeigh. McVeigh showed signs of post-traumatic stress, Gulf War syndrome prior to being deployed. Dental visits. I mean, just an enormous number of dental visits in the military. That doesn't happen. What were they doing with this guy?
Well, that's where they knock you out and you disappear a few days.
Right. And it's enough to pose solid questions.
Well, the state police, when he got pulled over, they said he was just...
Charlie Hanger.
Yeah, go over what the cop said. He was out of his gourd.
He was surprised to see that McVeigh was packing heat, and he had several magazines of rounds on himself and in the car. But the peculiar thing about Charlie Hanger, a lot of folks don't realize, it was his day off. He's 62 miles outside of his precinct. What in the world is Charlie Hanger doing, zooming up I-35, going after... In fact, he wasn't chasing anybody in particular. He was just cruising, and he stopped McVeigh for a speeding violation. And then to find out his tag was off, he wasn't registered. There was a lot of things that certainly posed a lot of questions. Number one, Charlie Hanger wasn't supposed to be there. So that's a huge red flag right there.
No chemical residue on McVeigh at all. No explosive residue. They checked his ears and I mean, nothing.
And, of course, the feds have grabbed all these surveillance tapes, and FBI agents told the L.A. Times they've seen them. It shows McVeigh with these other men.
Sure.
So the feds have these tapes, but they're saying they don't exist.
How many tapes did they copy over?
580 tapes were actually copied and contracted for by the federal government. There were survivors that sued for 24. The FBI lied, said, well, they didn't exist. And they said, well, we lied, but here's another lie. So out of 580 tapes, there were 120 of interest, which means they had 3 copies of 120 tapes. That's 5 times more than the original amount that they...
But the local news talked to the FBI agents. They say there's one from right over the truck, and you can see John Doe number 2 and McVeigh, big as Dallas.
So all of these things, this body of information literally comes at us by accident or by people that are conscientious, sitting on it for several years, and they come and say, look, we need to get this out.
What do you make of all these people that were in prison with him and Terry Nichols and others with these signed affidavits that McVeigh was like, yeah, I was in Black Ops. We were setting up militias. I mean, that fits with the MO we had.
Their family was surprised. McVeigh's family was surprised. They said that he worked for the government. He wrote the letter saying that, he was working for the CIA smuggling drugs in. So, I mean, they just assumed that he was Black Ops.
Now, this was on an FBI 302 witness statement. It's bona fide people. We're not pulling this stuff out of our ear. This is documentation. The federal...
Stay there. We got a long segment. I'm going to try to quit injecting points there. There's so many. But let's go over who McVeigh was. Let's go over what's admitted. I mean, this guy, and for all you Black Ops people out there, they're going to set you up too, okay? They enjoy burning you. Remember the MIAC report. They hate veterans. They hate cops.